Welcome to the Los Angeles County Metro Area Plan Introductory Workshop. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to take a moment to let people settle in, and then we will get started. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the project website, which we will share with you in a future slide. Bienvenido al taller introductorio del Plan del Área Metro del Condado de Los Ángeles. Gracias por acompañarnos. Vamos a tomarnos un momento para que la gente se acomode y luego comenzaremos. Tengan en cuenta que esta reunión se está grabando y estará disponible en el sitio web del proyecto. Welcome to the Los Angeles County Metro Area Plan Introductory Workshop. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to give people another minute to settle in, and then we will get started. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the project website, which we will share with you in a future slide. Bienvenido al taller introductorio del Plan del Área Metro del Condado de Los Ángeles. Gracias por acompañarnos. Vamos a tomarnos un momento más para que la gente se acomode y luego comenzaremos. Tengan en cuenta que esta reunión se está grabando y estará disponible en el sitio web del proyecto. Language support is available. To listen to this presentation in Spanish, click the globe symbol at the bottom of your screen. We have here today Marina Sorache Ferreiro providing Spanish translation. If you have any technical difficulties getting to the Spanish channel, please use the Q&A box to let us know. El soporte de idiomas está disponible. Para escuchar esta presentación en español, haga clic en el símbolo globo en la parte inferior de su pantalla. Hoy tenemos aquí a Marina Sorache Ferreiro brindando traducción al español en el canal de Zoom en español. Si tiene alguna dificultad técnica para acceder al canal en español, utilice el cuadro de preguntas y respuestas para hacérnoslo saber. Before we get started, here are a few housekeeping items. Please note that everyone joining the meeting is muted by default. You may use the raise hand feature to talk, or you may use the Q&A tool to submit questions as shown on this slide. After you click the Q&A icon, type your message in the box. We will be taking questions at the end of our presentation and strongly encourage your participation. We need your input. If you choose to speak, please be cautious of your speaking time to allow others to share their ideas and input as well. Please also remember to be courteous and respect differences. Also, just a quick reminder, at the end of the workshop today, the county would like you to respond to a brief exit survey. Okay. We will begin with some brief introductions. My name is Janet Rodriguez. I'm today's meeting facilitator and a member of the DUDEC consultant team, collaborating with the County of Los Angeles Regional Planning Department on this project. Also from DUDEC, we have here today DUDEC's project manager, Gaurav Srivastava, and planner Bianca Juarez. From the County Regional Planning Department, we have Erica Gutierrez and Leon Freeman. I will now turn it over to county staff so they may say hello.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that. I'm Leon Freeman with the Housing Policy section, and echo Erica's thank you for attending tonight and participating.
All right, so now that you know us, we would like to get to know you all. We will begin a poll shortly asking which community you are a resident of. Please select your answer. We will activate the poll now. Okay, thank you all for participating. So we will now play our presentation, and after the presentation, we look forward to opening up for questions.
Welcome to this introductory workshop for Los Angeles County's Metro Area Plan. Over the next 20 minutes, we will provide you with an overview of the plan, discuss its objectives, and highlight the opportunities you will have to provide input to shape its recommendations. The Metro Area Plan is being prepared by the Department of Regional Planning of the County of Los Angeles. Let us first set the planning area in a geographic context. Los Angeles County is the nation's most populous county with over 10 million residents. It covers an area that extends from the Antelope and Santa Clarita Valleys to the Palos Verdes Peninsula, and from Santa Monica to the San Gabriel Valley. There are 88 incorporated cities in the county. These cities are individually responsible for planning and regulating development within their jurisdictions. However, not all areas in the county lie within these 88 cities. The areas that are not within the cities are referred to as unincorporated areas. Los Angeles County, via the Department of Regional Planning, is responsible for planning and regulating development in unincorporated areas. To effectively plan and regulate development in unincorporated areas across such a large geography, Los Angeles County adopted a planning framework in 2015. This identified 11 planning areas across the county. The Metro Area Plan is one of the 11 planning areas in Los Angeles County. It occupies the urban core of the Los Angeles metropolitan region and includes both incorporated as well as unincorporated areas. The incorporated areas lie within the cities of Los Angeles and Compton. There are 7 unincorporated communities within the Metro Area Plan: West Athens, Westmont; West Rancho Dominguez, Victoria; Willowbrook; East Rancho Dominguez; Walnut Park; Florence Firestone, and East Los Angeles. These 7 communities will be the focus of the Metro Area Plan. It is estimated that about 310,000 residents, approximately 3% of the county's population, live in the 7 communities. About 84% are of Hispanic origin. For comparison, about half of the countywide population is of Hispanic origin. There are about 55,000 jobs across the 7 communities, slightly over 1% of all jobs in the county. The median household income is about $50,000. The county's median household income is about $75,000. The 7 unincorporated communities of the metro planning area are emblematic of the diversity of Southern California. Each has played a role in crafting the unique cultural landscape and identity of Los Angeles. East Los Angeles is located east of Los Angeles Boyle Heights neighborhood and adjacent to the cities of Monterey Park, Montebello, and Commerce. East Los Angeles is the birthplace of the Chicano art and political movements and continues to influence and shape their broader identities. It is the most populous of the 7 metro area communities, with a population of about 126,000 residents, 97% of who identify as being of Hispanic origin. There are about 23,000 jobs in East Los Angeles. East Los Angeles is served by the L line of LA County's Metro Light Rail network. Multiple freeways, the 10, 710, 5, and 60, provide access, but also dissect the community. Florence Firestone is located south of downtown Los Angeles and generally lies east of Central Avenue and west of Alameda Street. The community is home to about 65,000 residents, 91% of Hispanic origin. The community is presently the subject of an ongoing transit-oriented development, or TOD, specific plan for 3 stations along Metro's A line. The area, with over 7,400 jobs, has its origins in the industrial uses that developed along its rail corridor, including since closed factories of tire companies like Goodyear and Firestone. Walnut Park is a small residential neighborhood adjacent to Florence Firestone and the city of Huntington Park. It has about 16,000 residents and 1,000 jobs. About 98% of its residents are of Hispanic origin. The community is traversed by Pacific Boulevard, one of the region's most iconic retail corridors. East Rancho Dominguez is located in the southwest of the metro planning area. It lies west of the 710 freeway and adjacent to the cities of Compton and Paramount. It is home to approximately 15,000 residents and 700 jobs. The community is served by a county park, where 2 legends of tennis, Venus and Serena Williams, began their tennis careers as children playing at the courts of East Rancho Dominguez Park. Willowbrook is a predominantly residential community with visible remnants of its rural history. Horse trails and backyard farms remain integral to its identity. It is located in between the cities of Los Angeles and Compton and has approximately 21,000 residents and 3,300 jobs. The community is home to significant regional assets, including the Martin Luther King Jr. Hospital and the Willowbrook Rosa Parks Metro Station, a major transit hub at the junction of the A and C line. West Rancho Dominguez, Victoria, is a community of about 22,000 residents located in the southeast of the metro area, adjacent to Compton and Gardena. Providing over 15,000 local jobs, it serves as an industrial hub for the South Bay area of Los Angeles. Irvin Magic Johnson Park is a major asset to the community. It has been recently improved to address water quality, biodiversity, and provide a safe and sustainable recreational amenity. West Athens Westmont is located west of the 110 freeway, adjacent to the cities of Inglewood, Gardena, and Los Angeles. It is home to about 41,000 residents and 3,800 jobs. Los Angeles Southwest College is located in the community with an enrollment of over 8,000 students. West Athens Westmont also has played a significant role in the county's civil rights movement. Known as one of the first public courses to desegregate, Chester Washington Golf Course kick-started the desegregation of golf courses throughout Los Angeles County, which set in motion a county-wide overhaul of segregationist policies. The 7 communities of the metro area plan currently are subject to numerous, often overlapping policies and regulations. Some plans, like the Community Plan for East Los Angeles and the Neighborhood Plan for Walnut Park, date to the 1980s. Others, like the Transit-Oriented Specific Plans for Willowbrook and West Athens Westmont, were recently adopted. Florence Firestone is currently preparing its own Transit-Oriented Specific Plan. The purpose of these documents is to establish land use policy and implement it via zoning and development standards. What is land use policy? At its simplest, it designates where to allow various kinds of uses and activities, such as homes, shops, factories, and parks, as shown on this map by different colors. A land use plan ultimately reflects a community's priorities for what it aspires to be. For example, a land use plan that sets aside 90% of its land area for industrial use is very different from one that sets aside 90% for residential use. What is zoning? Zoning and development standards implement a community's land use policy. They provide the rules for how individual developments are built, how tall, how big, how much parking, how much yard space, and the like. Together, land use plans and zoning codes serve as a blueprint for how a community grows and develops over time. There is, however, a cautionary note with respect to land use and zoning. While they are understood to be regulatory tools that promote the health and safety of a community, their origins are also associated with racial and class segregation that go back a century. Land use plans of today strongly correlate to red lines maps of last century. These maps explicitly discriminated against racial and ethnic minorities and established segregated neighborhoods, which are still visible today. Now that we are in a new age of planning, we hope to use the Metro Area Plan project to correct some of the past mistakes made in land use decisions, and we are looking for your input to do that work. A primary goal of the Metro Area Plan is to update existing land use policies to address community needs. To simplify and streamline zoning rules, it will aim to consolidate regulations that currently exist across multiple plans. In evaluating existing land use and zoning, the Metro Area Plan will prioritize issues that are central to the lives of the community members. First and foremost, it will utilize an environmental justice and equity lens to evaluate all recommendations, recognizing that the 7 communities have historically been disadvantaged via past planning decisions. Additionally, the plan will address the need for affordable housing, analyze the suitability of new housing in proximity to transit stops, and carefully study potential residential displacement. It will also implement zoning recommendations from the county-wide housing element. With regards to transportation, The plan will focus on safety for bicyclists and pedestrians. This will build on the pedestrian planning work that is being conducted by the county's Department of Public Health. Parking needs for various uses will also be studied. The plan will also look at opportunities for economic development and new green spaces. It will seek out special places and landmarks that are locally significant to the community and recommend ways to preserve and celebrate them. This is a preliminary list of priorities, and we're requesting that you help us expand it by providing your input today. The Metro Area Plan is scheduled for adoption in June of 2023. Over the course of the next 20 months, we will provide multiple opportunities for you to provide input. Round 1 workshops, starting with today's introductory workshop, will occur over the next couple of weeks. These are intended to serve as a forum for your aspirations and your visions. Additional details about workshops for specific communities are on the next slide. Round 2 workshops will occur in the spring of 2022 and will provide you with an opportunity to weigh in on draft plan recommendations. Additionally, public hearings at the Regional Planning Commission are scheduled for October and November of 2022. Public hearings at the Board of Supervisors are scheduled for February and June of 2023. Round 1 visioning workshops will be conducted over a 2-week period starting November 8. This table provides the dates for each community's workshop. All Round 1 workshops will be conducted online from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. on the dates indicated. In order to participate, please pre-register. Details are provided on our website, planning.lacounty.gov/Metro Area Plan. We will also post the link in the Q&A window. We will now open up for questions and comments. Shown here are a few questions that might help shape your input tonight. What are the most important issues that you want the Metro Area Plan to address? What would you like us to keep in mind as we begin our analysis? What can we do better to understand and learn about your community? This concludes our overview presentation. Thank you, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Okay, so just as a reminder, we welcome all of your input and look forward to hearing from you. You can use the raise hand feature or Q&A icon. And again, here are some of the questions to consider, but you are not limited to these. Okay, so I see a raised hand. Michelle, you can unmute.
Thank you, Janet. I'm curious to ask, what are the outreach strategies for involving community members from these different areas? As someone from East LA, I'm just curious to know what community organizations or entities are being contacted so that there is a high level of participation. In addition to that, too, knowing that we are in the pandemic, what type of outreach is being given aside from online workshops, as that could be a barrier for community members participating? Right? Not everyone has access to Wi-Fi or a laptop. So I'm curious about those processes. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Gaurav, do you want to take this one?
Sure, yes. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gaurav Srivastav. I'm with Dudek, and I'm the project manager of the team. So first of all, I wanted to thank all of you for participating today. To answer your specific questions, we have a multi-layered outreach strategy that involves meetings like this, virtual, in addition to in-person workshops that, given current COVID public health guidelines, we will conduct in an outdoor setting. We have also partnered with CBOs in some of the communities that we are working in to use their resources and networks to get the word out. We also have a community advisory committee that who have volunteered their time to help us either distribute flyers or get the word out in a way that's that works for them. And then finally, as you will hear in a few slides, we have a survey available on our website that is now live and public. You will get the link to that in this presentation, and that's another opportunity for providing input. We recognize that online only workshops like this one often do not provide opportunities for every member of the community to participate. And to help fill that gap, we are proactively seeking out in-person venues and activities in this first round of workshop that we can help get our message out and get your input. Just a case in point, over the next couple of weeks, the County Department of Public Health is hosting in-person workshops at county facilities and parks in some of the 7 communities that we are looking at. And we will be present at those in-person outdoor events to provide information, to have attendees respond to the survey, and just be available. We'll be available for questions. So in conclusion, we have, I would say, 4 or 5 different approaches on how we want to maximize input given the constraints that we currently within. We also know that these constraints are likely to sunset. So our second round of outreach, which we are tentatively targeting for spring of next year, is likely to be in person, outdoors, and will be more interactive. And we'll be presenting design concepts and preliminary recommendations. Anyway, that's, I think, a broad summary of our outreach. I don't know if county staff wanted to add anything to that.
Thank you, Gaurav. I just want to confirm that, our approach is multi-pronged. And as Gaurav said, we are partnering with community-based organizations. We have a community advisory committee. And, just repeating what he said, we're partnering with public health to attend some in-person events this fall, but mostly continuing the virtual workshops and then continuing in the spring of next year with hopefully some in-person and outdoor workshops. So again, we're doing our best to explore as many ways as we can to get the community's input. And then finally, as Gaurav mentioned, we have a website, and on the website, we also have a survey.
Okay, thank you. So we have another hand raised from Daria Brooks.
Hi, yes, please. It's Daria and Claire Brooks. We're representing the West Rancho Dominguez area. And while we appreciate the thought of more green space and bicycle lanes, which would make it easier for walking areas that would be great for exercise, problem in our area is right now, our area and East Gardena are so completely overburdened by all of these people sleeping on the street, on the sidewalk, all of these RVs taking up the major streets here, that it'd be literally impossible at this point to put in more bike lanes or to have walking trails that are going to be safe for us, or green space that these people are not camping on. So before we can even address trying to make things nicer for people who actually pay taxes to live here, somebody has to do something about the situation that we're seeing out in our streets. So what's going to be done by the county first to remedy that situation before we move into trying to make it better for the neighborhoods?
Okay, thanks, Daria. That's definitely an important issue everywhere in the city right now. So we appreciate your input because this is really going to help shape the plan. Is this something, Gaurav, or county staff that you want to take on?
Sure, I can. So Daria, to acknowledge that input, we have heard that from other participants and community members that we have engaged. So we have noted it, documented, and recognize how significant that issue is to the quality of life of many of the community members. The plan at its core will look at land use policy and development standards and zoning. However, there are opportunities for the project team to engage other county entities and agencies that might have a bigger role to play in addressing this specific issue. But your comment is noted, and thank you for providing it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gaurav. So it looks like we have a few questions in the Q&A box. So the first one is from Maria, and she's asking, how will this complement or differentiate from the housing element and other plans such as the Florence Firestone TOD plan? Thank you, Maria. Gaurav, would you like to take this question?
Yes, I can take a first stab at it. Maria, thank you for identifying those two ongoing planning efforts sponsored by the Department of Regional Planning. So I'll address the housing element first. And some of you might be aware of what the housing element. The county is currently preparing a state required housing policy plan to address the supply of housing for multiple income categories. And this is a regular process that has to be done every few years. One of the recommendations of the housing element is identifying sites for additional housing supply that would require a change in the county's land use policy or zoning and development standards. Some of those sites are located within the 7 communities that we're looking at. So the metro area plan will be the implementing mechanism for the land use changes and housing policy changes that the housing element has recommended. So we're going to work hand in hand with that effort. Regarding the Florence Firestone TOD plan, that is a planning effort, again, just for context and background. The TOD specific plan, a transit-oriented development specific plan in Florence Firestone addresses 3 light rail stations in the community. And for the last several months, county staff in the community have been developing a specific plan to address the appropriate land use strategies in areas that are proximate and served by transit. That effort has made significant progress and has already recommended land use changes and new development standards. It is likely that the metro area plan will fold in all of those recommendations within the umbrella of the metro area plan. It's given the planning effort that's already gone into Florence Firestone, the metro area plan would adopt a very high level analysis and set of recommendations for that area. I'll stop there and I'll just pause to see if anyone from the county wants to take it on. I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. So I'll answer, or I'll read out loud one of the other questions in the Q&A box. This is from Mariana. It says, I appreciate the explicit mention of racial discrimination in land use planning in the past, but also the present. Will a racial equity assessment be included to assess impacts and ensure that this plan is actually correcting past discriminatory planning practices? Thank you for your question, Mariana. I will pass this on to Gaurav.
All right, thank you, Janet. Mariana, so I think broadly, the planning principle that the county has adopted and that we on the project team have adopted is to conduct our planning analysis and to evaluate our planning decisions through the lens of past planning practices. What exclusionary land use policies have meant to communities across Southern California, what redlining has meant. So I think that is an approach that is integral to all the work that we'll do. The specific question about the racial equity assessment, we don't know what shape and form it will take, whether it will be an actual assessment deliverable. And that might end up being the case, we just don't know that yet, but embedded in all our thinking is the recognition that land use policies of the past have created patterns of segregation that persist, and the metro area plan wants to find mechanisms to slowly start dismantling that framework, recognizing that the communities in the metro area plan should not be subject to additional harm through policy decisions, and that over time, future generations of these communities should not have to live with the consequences that these policy decisions have created.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a raised hand from Eugene. Eugene, you can unmute. Are you seeing the unmute button, Eugene? You can go ahead and
Okay,
type
can you
it
hear me?
in. Yes, I can hear you now.
Hi. So from the Willowbrook area, representing Willowbrook, but I wanted to walk it back for a few seconds with the comment about, it's more of a comment rather than a question about beautifying the communities and stuff like that. And I want to say that it is very important that we do those kind of measures, yeah, without it sounding like a political statement, right? It's not a politics I want to talk, but we do have agencies that are taking care of, you know, the unhoused and all of that stuff. But we can't forget about the residents and the people who live in the community or visit the community. So that's why we need bike paths for people who can't access, you know, the beach or the hills or the mountains where they could go out and get exercise. It's important to make environment for those people as well, so that we could continue to try to keep our health intact and to also encourage people to come into the community when it comes to like building, like you guys are talking about, land use. We need better grocery stores. We need all of these things so that people don't have to travel outside of their community. They could keep money inside and go to restaurants. There's no reason why we should have to travel 6-7 miles to go to a restaurant to have a dinner with your family. To have that in your community is very beneficial. So I just wanted to leave you guys with that. And thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. And that's the type of valuable input we're looking for. So thanks for raising your hand and giving us some feedback. Okay, so we have a question in the Q&A. This is from Melissa. She says, Walnut Park does not have a recreational park that would be available for community members. Where are you planning to give these in-person events for this community?
I can answer that.
Okay, thanks, Erica.
Well, I think this fall we have 2 events planned, not in Walnut Park, but nearby in Florence Firestone at Roosevelt Park on November 20th and from 10 to noon. And I think the slides will have this information later, or we can provide it if you email us. And then on November 20th from 2 to 4 at Watkins Park, or it will also be at the Florence Firestone Community Organization Office. So that is us partnering with public health. Those are the only in-person events we have scheduled for the fall. However, we can try and find, you know, a spot that we can hold an event, I think at least in the spring, when we have these outdoor, you know, the rest of the in-person outreach. So we'll work on that. So that's very good feedback. So thank you for, you know, letting us know that maybe there's not precisely a park that we can go to, but we'll look into that and then plan accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica. So I don't see any new questions or any hands raised. So we'll just give you all a couple minutes to see if anyone is encouraged to raise your hand. Oh, we have a raised hand. Martha, you can unmute now.
Thank you. I just want to say that it's important for you to try to be present when they have pop-ups, especially when they are distributing food throughout Walnut Park or at Florence Firestone or any other of the cities that are not incorporated, because people are still going out to try to get some food. So it would be a good thing to have flyers and to let people know what's going on, because unfortunately, not like somebody already mentioned it, not everybody has the possibility to get it connected to the internet. So I think it's very essential and important for everybody to be a part of this program. So then like that, they could really get to be active on it. And also when they're talking about housing, make sure that the housing process gets done so people can really be helped with it, because we have had some new buildings in our area at Florence Firestone, but the rent is like really high. So it's when they're talking about low income housing, and then the reality is like people cannot afford to move into it. So we really have to really look into it and make sure we follow through, and it does help out the people that need it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Martha. Okay, we have some questions in the Q&A. How will you be working with parks? In Watts by the freeway exit, there's a park called Serenity Park. Always has broken glass and passes an empty lot that is always unkept. I've constantly gotten a flat tire on my bike from spikes from trees or broken glass. Is this something county staff or Gaurav?
Sure. I'll just start, and then Gaurav, if you want to add to that. But we are working with parks very closely. They will help us review, our open space element for the plan and to comment on various technical reports. And we're also keeping, close eye on some of the projects that are underway in these various communities. So for this particular park, we have to check, but you mentioned Watts, so I'm not sure if that's actually in the unincorporated part of the county. However, this sounds like something that we can, take note of the location and then also refer that to them and as part of, enforcement or something that they can look into further as well.
Thanks, Erica. We have a question from Ariana. What are your youth engagement strategies? How are you making sure young people have a say in their community plans as well? Gaurav?
I'll take that on. Thank you. Ariana, thank you for your question. And thank you for reminding me that that's one piece of the outreach strategy that I failed to mention. So yes, we clearly have a strategy to involve the youth and school-going kids. We have already reached out to 2 schools, a high school and a middle school, with the aim to host workshops in the setting of the school campus. So we're currently coordinating with school teachers and administrators. If any one of you on the call have additional ideas on schools that you think would be appropriate for us to reach out to and host workshops so that we can get input from the youth of your communities, we are all ears. So type it in the Q&A and let us know, or follow up with us later. That's something we clearly want to focus on.
Thank you, Gaurav. I'm not seeing any raised hands. Okay, we have a question. Are zoning plans also responsible for abandoned homes? County staff, would you like to take on this question?
Sure. I guess to clarify, so you mean that, maybe if you can, I guess it's writing. So I'm not sure exactly what the question means, but I think what you're saying is, would zoning staff be responsible for like investigating homes that are potentially abandoned or maybe in disrepair? So maybe I'm way off and I can follow up in writing with this, but if that's the case, that is something, that we would most likely refer to our partners at the, building safety and public works. They go and investigate buildings and the structural integrity of buildings. So I'm not sure if anyone else wants to add to that, but I'm also not sure if I'm fully understanding the question.
Thank you, Erica. Okay,
I would
see a
suggest
raised hand.
if Melissa can follow up with us after, and we'll respond to her directly.
Melissa, you can unmute now.
Hi, y'all. Sorry, I was just thinking about, because I walk in my community a lot. Fortunately, I'm able to do that here. And I just see a lot of abandoned homes within this small knit community. And I'm thinking for myself, because I would love to live here in this community. where's the opportunity for us to be able to use these abandoned homes, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, because they've been for years, just not maintained, not being kept. The foundation and the structure of the homes are being invaded by people that don't live here, or maybe they do, and people are messing up the homes, the integrity of the home. I'm thinking more for myself as a person who wants to own a home in Walnut Park, and there's not much supply right now, right? But I'm thinking, what is the plan for these types of homes in our community? Because there's a lot of them.
Okay, thank you for clarifying. You know, I was not aware that this was an issue in Walnut Park. So again, this is why we really appreciate you being here, giving us this kind of feedback. I'm just, you know, kind of speculating, but it could be foreclosed homes that are owned by banks. Sometimes that's kind of what leads to vacant homes that are left, you know, vacant for many years because of these processes where the banks are holding on to them. I'm not entirely sure what's causing them, but it is something that we can look into as we continue to process, you know, develop this plan.
Yes, I would appreciate that, just because there are many in our community, and I just see it as like, well, there's all these people that want a home, but there's nobody able to access them, and they're beat up. Like, people come in and it's trashed, like the houses are trashed. So that doesn't look good for our community. It also doesn't bring in the right type of behaviors or, you know, in the community. So I just want to make sure that was a question that I said.
Thank you so much. And thank you for clarifying. So we'll take that. Thank you.
And thank you, Michelle, for adding the schools in the chat. We see it on the Q&A. We have a question from Daria. She says, we have both street, or is it St. Albert Elementary and St. Albert Middle School in West Rancho Dominguez, where the children are now surrounded by diesel rigs and large moving vans on one street and RV homeless to the west of the schools. The field formerly used for exercise has been taken over by a food consortium. What can your plan offer these children for safe recreation? Thank you for your question, Daria. I will turn it over to Gaurav, our county staff, to see who wants to take that on.
I can take it on. Daria, thank you for that information and for the feedback. So as we conduct our analysis, one of the issues that we are focusing in on is the experience and needs of the youth and children in the community, which is why we want to do the youth workshops at schools. And input like this will really help us understand what their experiences are in these communities. Given that this is a land use policy plan with zoning code, the ability of the plan to directly address some of these issues is limited. But as we said earlier, this is a county project. So the project team has the ability to coordinate internally with county agencies who can more directly address this particular issue. So we have noted it, and we will let and communicate this to the appropriate entities, but it will also form a part of our analysis, because at the end of the day, the entire purpose of the metro area planning effort is to create safe, healthy, welcoming communities.
Thank you, Gaurav. So it looks like we have a hand raised. Eugene, it looks like you still have the ability to speak.
Okay. So since we're talking about land use policies, is there a number or someone that we contact when, like she was saying, when you see like abandoned homes or businesses, is there like a log that we could contact and maybe they start storing this information and hopefully start to either sell them or tear them down, whatever it is, after they inspect them and deem if they're still able to be used or if they have to be demolished and stuff like that. I know one house in my area was sitting there with, you know, started harboring people like just loitering around the area and stuff. So it does kind of bring that negative attention. We have one liquor store that shut down last year and is still there with people tagging on the wall and stuff. So just scenarios like that. Is there a way that we could, or someone that we could report that to, and where they could come and investigate and determine what to do with that land use or that land space?
Yes, so I can chime in. We do have an enforcement staff that goes and investigates land use complaints on private property. So, and as I said earlier, you know, there are certain limitations that our planning staff can, you know, per our code cite for. So when we investigate, we will either cite them for something that's going on, like maybe junk and salvage, or you know, something like that, or refer it to our partners in public works if it's like a building integrity structural issue. But I would recommend, you know, that you refer issues like that to planning enforcement. It's a good start, and I can give you information on how to reach our enforcement staff. I think that's all I wanted to say. I don't know if anyone else wants to add to that. I mean, we also work closely with the sheriff, so some of these complaints, it might not be particularly, you know, within our department, but it might be working with the sheriffs or relaying concerns to the sheriffs, or to building and safety.
Okay, so I'll just wait for that information, and we'll hopefully everybody take advantage of that and try to get some of these vacant or abandoned buildings utilized.
I mean, yeah, if you can send addresses and to the metro area plan, you know, I'll put that maybe, or Gaurav or staff could put that in the chat. I don't know if you can see that, but you can send the addresses to that email, and then we can make the referrals and see what's going on. Because again, we do have limitations when it comes to like privately owned property. It's not like we can just go in there and say, oh, you know, you cannot have a vacant lot, right? But we can at least investigate and see what's going on. And if, again, like things like junk and salvage, we can certainly cite for, or if there's litter on the property, our enforcement staff does, you know, cite for things like that. So we'll put the metro area plan email in the chat, and then you can email us there and we'll follow up.
And I just wanted to add to one of the challenges with abandoned structures is that they are privately owned, and Erica kind of spoke with that. But I think the larger opportunity that you're highlighting is that we could look at it, we could assess it throughout the different communities. It's something that I think would be really valuable and could be really helpful to understand. So thank you very much for your comment.
Okay, and we have a question in the Q&A. What happens to single-family homes when their blocks are rezoned to 4, 5, 6-story buildings? It's inevitable that developers will outbid first-time home buyers. Thank you for your question. County staff, do you want to take this question?
Yes, I can start and see if anyone wants to weigh in. I think the way, you know, when people hear that their properties are being rezoned or their neighborhoods are being rezoned, I think it's kind of scary, or you know, no, people don't want to maybe see change and increased density. So that's a very valid concern. So I don't know what areas specifically you're talking about. Maybe, you know, maybe I know parts of Florence Firestone recently may have been rezoned as part of the community plan. What I will say is that just from sitting in on that work and those meetings, is that it takes time. It takes time for the new zoning to go into effect, and you don't just see, you know, new buildings pop up overnight. Like it can take 5 to 10 years for developers to go in and, you know, if they're going to build. So I just want to say that it's not something that just happens overnight. You know, some of the issues might have to do with lot size. Maybe developers won't find that. So I just want to say that I appreciate your concerns, and thank you for bringing that up. But also I just hope that, you know, you understand that it's a process, and that that there may be change, but it won't be something that happens immediately, but it's, you know, over time. And also I do want to add that there is some rezoning being proposed as part of the housing element, which my colleague Leon may be able to speak to, but you know, we don't know exactly where yet. So we have an idea about that, but you know, the specifics aren't laid out yet. So thank you for bringing this up. And as we continue to move in the process, we would appreciate if you would continue to give us feedback, you know, where and when we propose, if any, rezoning.
Sure, and I'll just chime in. I think when people hear that their home is going to be rezoned, it's a very scary thing. You know, the impression is that somebody's going to be coming tomorrow and you're going to have to move, and you no longer have your home, and that isn't what the process is. That isn't how it worked. If you can think of it as a capacity, at the end of the day, the owner of the single family home has to want to either sell or combine their lot with another lot in order to make a project workable. So it's really up to the homeowner. Where this is an issue, and I think where it's a solid concern is among renters, and that can be kind of a scary thing, that if your home, the home that you're renting and you live in, is being rezoned, you don't have the control that a property owner does, and that's a very valid concern. With the housing element, I just want to say that the housing element has identified sites from a very high level, according to a whole slew of subjective or objective characteristics, excuse me. And so what's going to happen through this metro area plan is the next step of that, where the planners will be looking at those recommendations in the housing element and then going out and saying, does this actually make sense? Does this actually work? Is this where it needs to be, or should it be across the street, or something like that? But it's this point through the metro area plan where you have the ability to participate, and you will be involved in that process. It's not something that's going to just happen. We want your input on that.
Thank you, Leon. Thank you, Erica.
Jen,
Sorry,
can I
Gaurav,
just
go ahead.
add one thing to what Leon and Erica said? And this is specifically to the technical analyses within the metro area plan. One of the studies we will be conducting is a residential displacement threat analysis. And the reason I say that is because this is an issue that is not lost on us. Right? We recognize that disruptive land use policies in neighborhoods which are high renter and are particularly vulnerable to displacement are places where we should not propose overly disruptive land use policies. So as part of our analysis and how we evaluate our recommendations, the input from that residential displacement analysis is really going to weigh in and tell us where does it make sense, if at all, to adopt some land use policies that might be disruptive.
Thank you, Gaurav. Okay, so I'm not seeing any more questions or raised hands, so we want to move on to the next slide. Thank you. So here's a reminder of upcoming workshops. We really look forward to your input. Please join us for upcoming visioning sessions and encourage others to do so as well. Please also remember that we're at the early stages of the process, and there will be additional opportunities to get involved beyond these listed here. We will also make more opportunities available through the planning process. As we mentioned earlier in the presentation, there will be a round 2 of visioning workshops. You can access the project website at planning.lacounty.gov/metro area plan, which I believe my colleague Gaurav has already added to the chat. And we also included a link to get the emails And for the community survey, thank you, Gaurav.
Oh, Janet, can I just expand a little bit on the community survey?
Sure.
So we currently have the survey live, and we will have it up for next several weeks. And this is one of our components where we want to broaden our input given the constraints that accompany our outreach these days. So anyway, the link is in the chat window. Please feel free to go and respond. It probably takes 2 or 3 minutes, and it helps us understand what your priorities and aspirations are. So at the end of the day, it'll help us shape a better plan. That's all, Janet. All right, I'll move on.
Thank you, Gaurav. So on this slide, we have upcoming workshops relative to pedestrian planning efforts that will be conducted by LA County's Public Health Department for these 4 communities. This pedestrian planning effort is a separate project, but we will be coordinating with that project team to share information gathered during these in-person workshops. The Metro Area Planning Team is also working to coordinate and participate in these in-person workshops in order to provide information and respond to questions from attendees about the Metro Area Plan project. There's also an upcoming workshop for the completed East LA parking study led by the county's Chief Executive Office. The workshop will be held virtually on November 4th in English at 5:30 p.m. and in Spanish at 6:30 p.m. They will be providing a brief presentation and then allow for public comments. You can also contact Christine Frias. Her information is on this slide, and we will also put this information in the chat and follow up in an email. Okay, so on behalf of the project team, we first want to thank you for your time and being with us tonight. We know that time is precious and we value all of your input. We encourage you to stay involved in the project as your input is critical to this planning process. Before we conduct our exit survey, I will just ask the other team members if anyone has any closing remarks.
Just want to echo what Janet just said. We realize that everyone's time is valuable. Everyone's very busy and there are probably many other things you could be doing with your time. So thank you so much for being here tonight and providing your invaluable feedback. Please also, as Janet said, continue to be involved in this process. It's not going to be that long. It's you know, for planning effort, it's 2 years. And so it's a shorter timeline, and that's why it's really important that you continue to be involved early on, and you know, also coming up in the spring when we hopefully have drafts to show you of what we're planning, and then you can comment further and help us refine, you know, the plan as well. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Erica. And the East LA parking study information is now in the chat. Okay, so with that, we will pull up the poll. And thank you all for participating. Thank you, Gaurav. All right, good night, everyone.
Good night, bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.